Welcome to Hassle-Free Hosting with AirDXB, the podcast where we explore the world of short-term rentals in Dubai and beyond. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Greg here from AirDXB's founder and CEO. I'm welcomed by Mitchell Lear. Mitchell, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, not at all, not at all. It's always good to have the general manager of AirDXB with me and to have you on as a podcast. It's great.
It's about time, right?
It's about time. It's about time. We've been talking about it, and we haven't quite got around to it. I think we talked about this probably for a year and a half, but we're finally doing it, which is great. So how are you today?
Good. It's obviously it's Ramadan, so things have slowed down a wee bit, which is good. It allows us to do all the things that we should be doing.
Yeah. So what I want to talk to you today about is your journey with AirDXB, a bit about what you did before, how this is all unfolded for you, because a big thing that we need to get across here is that you had no short-let holiday homes experience whatsoever, and then you came aboard and you have just thrusted your way through the business to reach the GM level. So let's talk about you and what you were doing before a little bit, the skills that you saw or developed, I should say. So what did you do before this, and how do you think that's helped you into the short-let journey?
Well, I was lucky enough with my previous role to travel quite a bit. Worked in Barcelona, worked in India, obviously worked in the UK. And throughout the time there, not only did I work my way up within that company, I was actually able to move abroad and set up offices in those countries. So it gave me that kind of diversity of dealing with different people.
Were you staying in Airbnbs when you were traveling?
One or two. I think Barcelona, definitely. But yeah, India, I think is playing catch up on that. To be honest, that was very much a hotel experience. But when I travel, try and stay at Airbnbs, of course. But yeah, I think India definitely was probably my first forte out of Dubai. Went over there with nothing really, just with a mission to go and set up an office there, find the location, find the staff, and we did that from scratch, and that went really, really well. So then we did the same thing in the UK, Barcelona, and I kind of got involved in the operations side, which is everything from, HR, from recruitment, through actually managing the office, through making sure it's a sales floor. People are actually doing their job. So in that sense, it kind of held me in good stead for when this opportunity came along.
Yeah. But you never done or dealt with or anything in real estate?
No.
Hospitality?
No.
So this really was a plunge for you into the deep dark. Really.
It was a plunge, but it didn't feel like a plunge. I thought everything that led to that point held me in good stead, because all the things that were required for me to do this job that AirDXB needed, I've done in the past. Yes, it wasn't directly real estate, but you take real estate out of it, it was just a different product. Whether I was selling, whether I was managing, whether it was operations. Wasn't perfect, but everything that I've done in my career has led to this point.
That sounds wonderful. Sounds like a Hollywood movie. Everything in my career and my life has led me to this one point. I love it.
It's the best decision I ever made, to be honest with you.
I'm loving this, Jack. You're telling me more.
I'm not just saying it, but I've worked for some varied companies, and this by far has been the best experience so far.
Good. And we're going to talk about why in a minute, because I like hearing these things. So you didn't know anything about short-lets? Didn't know anything about that side other than the fact you had stayed in them?
I know about
the concept,
Airbnb,
of course.
Yeah.
But the general structure and how it all works.
Yeah.
So when you came into the company, how many people were working?
Okay, so I'm coming up for 2 years. I would say about 30 people.
30, and we'll be around 200 now, plus.
Proppies.
No staff. Staff.
Nudging 200 now.
Yeah, and when you joined?
April 2 years ago, because it coincided with when.
Yeah, and then staff levels were
30 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and 200 now.
Jeez, it's grown.
Yeah,
that's grown.
Exponentially.
So when you came into it, how did you feel? Were you apprehensive? Was it, this is going to be such a huge task to not only come into a company? I mean, we were talking about 30 people that I employed at that point. Yeah. We know we wanted to move in a certain direction. We're definitely moving in that direction. Coming into this, though, aside from a different working atmosphere of working with Greg, 2 years, three-year-old company, things are moving, then into an industry you've never done before. How did you feel coming into that? Daunting, scary, excited?
I was excited, to be fair, because I think everything that you told me about what I was walking into, at no point did either of us think, okay, that's not achievable. Yeah, can't do that. The job is extremely difficult, and it should be, and it's a challenge every day, as it should be. But the fundamentals of how to run this business and how to grow it, they're quite easy to foresee, right? So in that sense, when we were going through it, it was more excitement than anything else. Because if you take out the real estate element, then you're running a business, you're running people, you're running teams.
It's just a different product.
Just a different product. Yeah. So you take real estate out, and then I think you simplify the whole process.
How big was the largest team you've ever managed, if you had, before you joined?
30.
So you were coming in, that's a sizable team. Yeah. You talk about now with 200 plus, but 30 still is a sizable team for someone to command.
Yeah. It's slightly different. It was a sales floor. It was in India, but it's still 30 people.
100%. It's still...
Didn't have the infrastructure. I was the manager, I was HR, I was everything. Sales manager. So yeah, again, if you can do that, my logic is that you can take that model for 30 and replicate it and duplicate it and scale it. Yeah. Because the principles remain the same. And actually, when you scale a business, if you can stick to those original principles that you manage by...
What would those principles be?
For me, people first.
Yeah.
You know, as a business, we don't micromanage, right? And if you're not going to micromanage, you need to know that your staff are doing what they need to do when your back's turned. Yeah. Because this business is far too quick.
There's no pause button.
There's no pause button, especially with your plans of taking over the world.
Well,
It's a bad thing. So, in people first, if I get good people around me, good people around them, and how many times have we said it, right? If you employ someone, you're employing someone to do a job, there's no point being sat behind them, micromanaging it. You want to give them the freedom. And a lot of people struggle with that, especially in Dubai.
Is that what you found?
I've done a lot of interviews and we've employed a lot of people, and actually if you listen, take the time to listen to their story and their journey and how they got to this point, the way they've been managed in the past, a lot of them don't know how to actually thrive in this environment because it's so new to them. It's, they're so used to being told what to do, they're so used to being told off all the time, and it's like, well, actually if you empower people, if you give people a platform to perform, you'll get the best results. So for me, it's people first, and taking the time to listen to them, listen to what their problems are, trying to overcome them with solutions. Once you've done that, then you need a good product, right? You have to have a good product. If you don't have a good product, you could have the best salespeople in the world. Eventually, it'll break down. So we've got good people, we've got good product. I think those two things combined, I don't think it's the most complicated of tasks to do.
I can't wait for our next one-to-one meeting where I'm going to bring this up. You said it wasn't complicated.
I think when you break it down, it's not complicated. When you add all the parts together, it becomes extremely complicated. And that's what sets us apart. We're able to take all these, they're essentially businesses in their own right, a cleaning business, a maintenance business, and we put them all together, we make it work.
You've got the hospitality with the guests, you've got owners, which is account management, but we're on we manage hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties. So the sheer scale of it,
that's the challenge.
Is that you have to. We've chatted about this before. So it is a business within a business. Yeah. So it has to be treated that way. And the wider scale of the business, you can't run a wider scale. It's each individual has to be treated, and I don't know if you disagree or agree. Each individual one has to be treated differently. Yeah, you have to approach it differently. Different staff, different ideas, different concepts, and the rest of it.
Yeah, and if one doesn't work, it affects the other.
Yeah.
I'd say there's similarities between maintenance and housekeeping for sure, but that's the only two that I think are linked. And that's also, when you speak to people around the company, and certainly myself, that's also why people love working here and love short lets, because yes, it's challenging, but the challenge is what you sign up for, and it's overcoming those challenges, and that's where you get your rewards from. And that's why people stay in this industry.
And one thing you haven't pointed out so far, but I will, is that we are scaling. So when you actually look at what you're trying to manage, and at the same time, everything is growing, and we are listing tens and tens and tens, not quite hundreds of properties a month.
Yeah.
And when you start bringing that into these teams, you have to then restructure that team.
Yeah. But this is live. I can't. I'm always looking for a pause button. Let's scale it, but can we just stop that so I can fix that? It's like, no, you do everything all at once, all at the same time. And again, that's what makes us. This is why I enjoy it so much, because that challenge is, you can't really get that in most other places.
Look, I mean, we've had chats about it, and you saw me pre even coming on. I'm surprised I even got what little hair I have left.
Well, mine's already gone, to be fair.
What to say.
But I will say that was before I joined the company.
Good. Just asterisks that. But it makes me laugh. Really does. But this is such a fun. I love it. I absolutely love it. It does have its pain points at times, but because you are dealing with effectively multiple businesses, multiple scenarios, as painful as it can be, I know personally I wouldn't change it, because you have so much difference each day, and you're being tested in so many different ways. And we've opened up in the UK. So for me, out over there, we're like, right, how are we navigating through this? We've got the wrapping, we've got interiors, we've got the brokerage, which is now coming on strong. Then you talk about the short let side. You're obviously very immersed within the short let management and pretty much running that, taking that forward and helping with other bits. But that in itself, you've got 5 companies, if you see what I mean, if you split the teams up. So I couldn't go back to a normal job.
I had this conversation. I asked you. I was probably having a bad day, and I said to you, if you could rewind. Right?
Oh, I remember this day.
And I was like, knowing what you know and the challenges that we face, would you do it again? Because it's a 24/7 business. There's a lot of other businesses that you could start that you clock in at 9, finish at 5 days a week. And I said to you, is this something you'll do again? And you didn't even blink.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And,
if that's the leader of the business, then that's all I need to know.
Would you?
No,
there's a pause.
I'm playing. No, I've worked in enough different situations now to get my head around it, and we're now building something which can actually function 24/7. That's the beautiful thing. I think when I first joined, 30 people, we very much had big ambitions, big plans. They're now coming to reality. If you'd have asked me, a year and a half ago, I'd have been like, maybe pause. But now you can start to see we've got everything in place that we need. And that's why we're scaling it. And that's the beautiful thing. And now the challenge for me is, as we scale it, to maintain everything that you did. Everything that made this company great in the 3 years prior to me joining, is how can we scale this business and have minimal impact? Because if we're being honest, every business that scales is going to take a hit somewhere. It's not known any business that scales that does so without taking a hit on one of the
because you can forecast, but you don't know. There's stuff that happens that I look at you. I know you've looked at me many times and gone, how has that happened? How has A gone to Z to F and now has landed on N? It's not ABC, is it?
No.
And it's part of the excitement, but and it's the task, and it's the accomplishment.
That's why I have a job, essentially, right? If everything was running smoothly,
I'm like, don't worry about it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been great.
It has. You were saying earlier that there were principles. Yeah. So we talked about staff. So this was about getting things right within the company, that you've got to have your principles right. We talked about staff. We've digressed slightly, but that's great. But what other principles have you got? Within the business. So you're saying get your principles right when you're working within the business. You're concentrating on your staff. So it's like other things, whether it's your clients or whether it's this sort of stuff. The principles
number one's
within getting it right.
Communication. I'm forever using that word. And again, it applies in all areas of our business. This is a beautiful thing.
Are you now talking about things to make a business work?
Well, yeah.
No, okay. Well, let's talk about that then. So 3 things that you believe are integral for making a business of AirDXB's size work. Feel free to use 5 if you want to.
Yeah, there's a few.
So you've got communication.
Communication is number one, because if you break it down, our clients are the most important commodity that we have. Without clients, we don't have a business.
Yeah.
So we have to communicate with them well. So that's number one. Not far behind that is guests. We have all these amazing properties, all these amazing clients with their properties. We want guests to come in and have a first-class experience.
Yeah.
Communication has to be key to that as well. Yeah. That's on the sales side. And then if you look at the business itself in terms of it functioning, we have to have consistently and constantly lines of communication with every part of business, whether it be one-on-one, whether it be team to team. So communication for me is extremely important. And I want people to put a hand up. Again, I kind of already touched it, but in a lot of other working environments, people aren't given a voice. And I'm not just saying that. I've heard the horror stories, and people will join us, and I'm like, what do you think? How would you solve that problem? And they're just speechless.
It's like a deer caught in headlights.
It's just like,
what, you're asking me a question, what I should do? Yes.
And you have to, and again, the challenge is to empower them to say, look, you can answer it. There's no wrong answer. It's not a trick question. I genuinely want to know. And I'm not going to say that we're going to do everything that you say, but I want to hear your input. I want to hear your feedback. And that's really what we try and build with the teams is, everyone has a voice, everyone has an idea. We can't implement all the ideas. But if we're in constant communication with each other, then generally speaking, the problems subside. Because A knows what B is doing, B knows what C is doing, et cetera, et cetera. So communication is number one. People, again, I know I've already said it, but you do need people.
The good people, the right people.
The right people. And, recruitment's key to that. If you're scaling a business, our retention rate in terms of staff is I think, unheard of in terms of the amount of people we brought on and the amount of people that are still with us.
I think if you look at how many people have left on their own will, I don't think it's double digits.
It's not, right?
And that's in 5-6 years. Well, coming to 6 years in September with a team of 200 strong now. That's nothing. It's insignificant.
We should have a higher turnover, right? We should. We don't. And again, the reasons for that, basic things, we don't micromanage. People have a voice, we listen. And, for that reason, we've been able to get our recruitment right.
Get the right people.
Empowering
the right people, isn't it? Empowering to get the right people.
It's not easy to get a job here, right? So we make sure that the process.
You're talking about AirDXB or Dubai?
AirDXB.
Oh, definitely. I overheard you interviewing someone last week. I was like, oh my goodness,
that was more of a counselling
guy. I think it was. I was like, the poor. Shall I go in and see and help him out? I mean, of course, you weren't being rude or anything like that, but you were asking him some very direct questions. And look, we haven't got time to bring on the wrong people because what we've just explained, the business doesn't have a pause button. It's go. Yeah. And if you put time and energy into that recruitment and that person doesn't work out, back to the beginning of that process again, which we don't have time for. But yeah, I do appreciate your interviewing techniques and.
Well, I spend a little more time on the recruitment just to make sure we're bringing the right people in, and that's worked well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, communication. I think on a basic level, you need to make sure your processes are right, and you can't procrastinate.
Yep.
Again, it goes back to the pause button, but we make quick decisions.
Yeah.
And the great thing that you've kind of taught me is that there isn't really a wrong decision. We can get things wrong, and there's human error, and that's always going to exist. But rather than sit in a room and talk about a problem for 6 months and before you do something, identify the problem, get in a room, come up with a solution. If that solution doesn't work, at least you've tried it and you move on to the next solution.
You've learned from that, so going forward, because there's so many unknowns. I mean, the amount of times that we've discussed it and I've said, right, I've had this before, not had this, blah, 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 and everything I've done in the business world. But what we go into in general within the company, but the industry we're in, that you are dealing with, I mean, I don't know how many guests, about 40, 50, 60,000 or something last year, different personalities.
Different
nationalities, different ways. This is it. Then you have your own clients who are the holiday homeowners. Then you have things that we may outsource to. Then you've got government entities. Then you've got booking platforms. I mean, I do think about it, and I don't know of anything else that has to spin so many important plays. Government entities, booking channels that you have to rely upon to drive business. Owners who inevitably are your client because they're paying you your management fee, guests who you have to have, who are brutal and can be brutal and are brutal with reviews and things like this, and that then has a detrimental effect. So to try and be the master of this craft is incredibly difficult, and to predict is incredibly difficult, but you can't hit that pause button.
You can't.
It's great that we're making these decisions quickly.
Quick decisions, and also, as you're saying, things are coming into my simplicity.
Yeah, well, you heard me.
Simplicity is key, right?
Simplify.
Because we don't want to complicate things to the point at which people can't do it. And again, if you're making quick decisions, simplify them. and be prepared for what's going to happen in terms of an outcome. So, a lot of the decisions we make, they're simplistic because we want to roll it out quickly. We want to test it. We want to see it work. And then you can add on more complex layers to it if you need to. But I mean, you're just talking about AirDXB in terms of short let. We've got even more plates with everything else.
3 other companies.
Yeah.
Or four if we include England. Right. So there's those. But I mean, those from my perspective are nothing like the management. Yeah. Because if you're dealing with, let's say, the wrapping, you then have your team that you're coordinating with, your client, the consumer, the person's having a wrap. That's it. There isn't the government entities, booking channel platforms. There isn't this. You then look at interiors. You have a client that has asked you to come and renovate or furnish the property. That's us talking to one, not us talking to 4 or 5 different entities that's juggling. So, but if you look at, I think what we're doing in the management side is enough. But then to put this in, but what a phenomenal chain of different businesses that can support each other.
It's a beast. Right? It's an absolute beast.
Yeah, and it can all complement, all help. And we have so many clients that are saying that I hate the terminology one-stop shop, but it is. I was thinking to do this. How many clients that are using us for short term said, can you come and renovate or wrap our personal home? Now, of course, with the brokerage arm, forgetting that one, which we've just done, record deal. Most expensive 2-bed ever sold in Nikki Beach. Thank you. I did have, but I don't know if I still got the record. Most expensive Palm Views sold as well.
Hopefully
so
that's still
I hope that's still exactly that. But then you have all of this, and then the brokerage obviously complements it that way. So from your perspective, let's bring it back onto you.
Yeah, sorry.
So from your perspective, no, apologise. It's fine. I know it's good to hear. But from your perspective, if you start looking then at how you've adjusted, now let's look at the last 12 months. Because, of course, when you joined, it was like, right, we're moving. We've got to get different parts of this business sorted. We definitely have structure, and what I would say, and I'm going to anyway, about phenomenal structure. Yeah. But then how have you changed within your approach to things? Let's say there's now 6 to 8 months because there's more senior management.
Yeah, I've struggled, right? Because I'm quite controlling.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and because I care so much.
So we're saying that handing stuff over.
Yeah, it's...
You know how I felt when you joined?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? We're all going through the same emotions, but for me, it's probably actually unfair to say that I'm controlling. It's more, I care so much in any job as well. Historically, that's been one of the reasons why I've been able to climb within those companies because, deep down I care. But with this, I've tried to, with any process or any aspect of the business that I've tried to hand over to someone else, I always try to run it myself first because I don't want to set anyone up to fail. And also, if they're not able to do it, I can lean back on and say, hang on a minute, I was able to do this. Where are your pain points? So that's been a big adjustment, which is, handing things over. But
it has to for the growth.
But I can't do everything.
But now you have. How are you feeling about it?
Great. Great. No, look, it works very well, right? Because you hand it over, but you're still there. You're still offering support. You're still monitoring it. You're still listening to pain points. I'm still heavily involved, maybe too involved at times. But I need to give other people a chance because we've got some fantastic people around us. And they need a chance to implement their own ideas as well. And that's what they're doing. And it's great to listen.
And then from your perspective, so you're handing over a bit more. Yeah. So from you and yourself, what are you then finding? Are you immersing yourself then into different parts of the business that's make you think a different way?
Yeah, I mean, that's a daily thing anyway.
Yeah, obviously we've grown and we've got the different bits coming in. With respect to the companies that's being set up. So, I mean, is that challenging you in different ways? So as much as you're relinquishing control over some parts, you're bringing on control of others? Or
it's not even control, right? We've got a business that's extremely well functioning, and it's now going around to every part of our business to make sure that what we're doing can we do it any better? Yeah. And that's my biggest challenge now is, that might be working. But when you look into it a bit deeper, could we work a little bit better? Could we be more efficient? Could we offer a better service?
And as we grow, what you do now won't necessarily work in 4 months, 6 months, next month.
I've made untold amounts of changes for what I think is the good of the business over the last couple of years. And I've made, something I've changed again for that exact reason. Because something that works with 30 people, something that works with 50 people, something that works with 100 people, it might not work at 200. And so you have to.
It's probably not going to work at 300.
Yeah, no, I know.
Which is going to be in the next 6 months. So
that's the next milestone. And I suppose I'm not very precious about that, and I think that's important. Just because I may have had an idea, we've implemented it. Times change, and I don't want to be, held back by, it's got to be this way. Why does it have to be that way? If the business has changed, if the personnel's changed,
evolve it.
And we're constantly evolving, and that's why. For me, in a good way, the challenges never cease. I liken this to Jack-a-ball.
It goes back. Yeah, I heard you say that a few times. This is what I like about it. It's evolving and it's moving. I'm permanently learning. And I don't think I ever would stop learning, because aside from each day we present different challenges, whether it's a guest or something, we are growing 5 to 10% stock. This is month on month, year on year, month on month. 10%. It's phenomenal. I mean, ridiculous. So when you look down at the scale that we're at, to then put in an extra 5 to 10% monthly is, I think it's phenomenal as a business owner watching it grow. But then you're thinking, okay, didn't anticipate this. This clearly doesn't work with this, and it's relentless. Now I know. Well, we worked in EMAR. I was getting it wrong, don't I? EMAR, the Greens, one of Greens, not EMAR Business Park. Yeah, EMAR Business Park. That's it. EMAR Business Park. I was working in a corporate. You were working in a corporate. Without fail, it was 1 o'clock at that wonderful place that sold those jacket potatoes. What was it called?
Baguette.
Some of the Baguette factory. No, it doesn't matter what it was. And then it was, and this is why I went and did what I did to set up the company. I just hate predictability, and I hate that each day is the same. I think we can firmly say no. So it's the same. I just had lunch before we jumped onto this podcast.
I haven't eaten today.
And it is 3. Damn, I thought I was going to win that. I
Time to win. I've done those mundane jobs. I know you go back years, but like as a student, I was stacking shelves in M&S, and that would be literally walking in, just.
I was on the till.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was on the till. And at one point, I think I was given... No, I think I was. I was on the home furnishing side. This is where the interior side comes out. It started when I was 16, 17, and I was too young to sell furniture, because if people need to get a loan, you're too young to sign that loan off.
Okay.
But I digressed. We shall talk about this on another podcast. Jumping straight out of that, so we talked a bit about the business. You've seen a bit now what's going on. What about you? Would you ever get into purchasing a property and putting it on for short let?
Yeah. 100%. That's what we're looking at the moment.
Where would you buy?
I want to have some skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I'm essentially helping you run a short-let business.
Yeah.
I want to get some skin in the game. So where would I buy at the moment? Well, I'll be obviously leaning on the brokerage for that, but JVC. I think just when you're looking at the property price that you can get in for, which obviously impacts on the yield, JVC seems to be quite a popular choice.
If you were to buy, what would you buy? A studio, 1 bed? What would you do?
Studio 1 bed. I'm conflicted, because obviously it comes down to money and budgets and things like that. In an ideal world, I'd probably go with something bigger. Yeah. Simply because my philosophy is, and everyone's different, but I would look at the situation and go, if I've got a family and I need to fit them into a hotel room, it's highly unlikely they will. So I'm looking at 2 hotel rooms. That's because
you're expecting your second.
Well,
there you go.
I've got this all to come.
There you go. You have to start thinking about these things.
Plane tickets are literally full price for a kid. As soon as they turn 2.
Exactly, and that's going to double up. You've got a second on the way. So
I want a third as well, and I'm looking at the numbers.
Well, I've just had my first, who's 3 weeks old, and my wife is already saying when we have number 2. So I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you. Anyway,
catching up to do.
I've got to catch up to do.
I was looking at it like this: is if you've got a family that can't fit into a hotel room, you need 2 hotel rooms. That's typically double cost, right? I think that's where Airbnb is almost perfect, because not only do you get that extra space for a lower price point than 2 hotel rooms, but you get the things that family needs, which is a kitchen, more often than not. So that would be my primary goal, would be try and get a 2-bed plus. But depending on budgets, I happily pick up a studio 1 bed, because the beautiful thing to buy, there's always a market.
Agreed.
There's always an opportunity.
Money, no object. Where would you buy and what would you buy?
Money, no object. You'd go into the marina or downtown.
And how many beds? What would you do?
2-bed plus. I think 3, 4. The more beds, you're catching that demographic that doesn't want to stay in a hotel room. Wants the extra space, wants a kitchen.
And we're seeing family bookings growing exponentially. And I think the way that Dubai has positioned itself as a city to appeal now to families, not necessarily that younger generation. When you look at what's going on, look, you're a family man anyway, but even coming on holiday, how much more family friendly it is, we're definitely seeing that type of guest coming on with more and more families coming in, which means we need bigger property.
Well, the funny thing is, it was probably already here 10 years ago, but that was not on my agenda. I was not worrying about kids. But yeah, Dubai is great for families, right? I mean, they've just opened SeaWorld and in Abu Dhabi, and they're always pushing the envelope.
Yeah, I mean, it's an emirate. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'll try and get big stock. I think that will capture a part of the market which is neglected, because you have to think most people, if you got the scale, more people can buy a studio than a one bed. More people can buy a one bed than a two bed. So the higher up the scale you can get. But then obviously you could then factor in location, and then you might sacrifice on location because if you're going a big unit in the marina or a big unit in downtown, that's premium. So you might need a bigger stock in a JVC.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. You going forward, your son now says, Dad, I love that AirDXB company. Can I come and work? And in fact, wasn't he in the offices only on Friday, which I love. Yeah. He now says this to you, and he says, right, let's get into the big bad business world. What advice would you give him? Doesn't have to be pointed towards a short-let scenario, but more you. What have you seen in this business world, and what have you taken out from what you've seen before, but what you've seen at AirDXB? What advice would you pass on to someone that wants to get into the big bad business world, or short-lets, if you want to talk about that?
Bearing in mind, he's coming up for 2 and I haven't had this chat yet. Yeah. No one's asked me about what advice are you giving your son. I just had a parent-teacher meeting as well, and that didn't come up.
It's the AirDXB podcast. We ask questions like this.
Exactly, right. If I've learned anything, it's that most things are achievable. Like, I've not really seen any challenges we haven't been able to overcome. And again, I think if you can, if you're confident and you like taking a degree of risk, I think why not push yourself? Like, go into something that's going to challenge you. Don't take the easy route. Don't take the easy job.
Agreed.
And this isn't related to short-lets. This is just in general. Take a job that's going to challenge you, because you don't know what you're capable of until you take that plunge, and then maybe it doesn't work out, right? And then you revert back. It's fine, but you don't want to have any regrets. So take the difficult option and see what's the worst.
Well, it's great to hear. So again, it goes back to what we were saying. We were both working in Emaar Business Park, sorry, and that we knew what our futures were going to look like. Yeah. So you would still, if you turn left, which you knew what you were going to get, it's roughly your salary, but you'd rather turn right to say, look, right, big unknown world here, going into an industry.
Achieve? What can we do here? What can we do in this space? Like, it's a challenge, and it's not a challenge that you have in most other businesses, unless you've started your own business and you're breaking into a space. But if you're in the corporate world, it's a 9 to 5. You get a salary. The amount of people you see in the corporate world that hide because there's bums on seats, and there's enough people to do your job. You're here, it's not going to happen.
You get found out. Yeah,
found out very, very quickly if you can't do your job.
AirDXB, yeah. Oh, no, that's the industry. I think that's also doing it. It's not necessarily AirDXB, the management we have in place. Yeah. That is the industry. You're found out very, very, very quickly. I think. Look, let's wrap up. One more question, if I may. Cool. What's your forecast with short-lets in Dubai for the next 12 months? What do you think is going to happen in the job market and that sort of thing?
I think stock is still going to come off the likes of Airbnb.
Yeah. So short-let in general.
Yeah, short-let.
Yeah, platforms.
Yeah, I think.
And going into long-term.
Yeah, I think
people selling.
Yeah. I think you speak to people. There's still huge appetite for Airbnb. Right. Yeah. That's not going anywhere. But some people are looking at the market now going, is this the time to sell? So that's naturally going to happen. Some people are looking at, is this the time to take long term? That's naturally going to happen. But the great thing is that the more people that leave because they're selling or because they're going to long term, it's better for our clients.
Great.
It's going to drive up prices because there's less stock on Airbnb.
Supply demand. Yeah.
Look, tourism's going nowhere right now. Dubai is a very appealing place to come. You look at other places in the world, you can't quite say that at the moment. It's also an appealing place to live, and again, Airbnb benefits from that as well, because maybe you want to come out for a few months, see what Dubai is like before you take the full job, before you commit to living here. And so I expect rates to increase. I expect stock to go down. But the beautiful thing is we're looking at the market and our competitors, and we are comfortably increasing our stock whilst others aren't.
More than any others. 20 that we track.
Only plays in our favour.
Yeah, only plays in our favour. well, showing that we're doing something right. But yeah, that's what I've been pressing into the market here, is that the more people that do move into long-term property that sell, all that's doing is diminishing the stock of short-term, which will then in turn push prices up. But it's great though, and it's testament to AirDXB that we are growing 5 to 10% every month on month without fail now for years,
consistent,
pretty much. And it's testament to what we do, what we deliver, and I think how we've positioned the firm. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for taking your time on a very busy day. I know. Go and get some lunch.
I need some food. Yeah.
Get some food or dinner now. Whatever you need to do. But thank you so much for your time, Mitch.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you. If you want to learn how AirDXB can dramatically increase the return on your asset, then drop us an email at gregory@air-dxb.com or visit our website, air-dxb.com.